Hello, everyone. This is Jeff with Mississippi and the Civil War. And sorry it has taken me so long to get the next episode out. I try and do these on a more timely basis, but boy, I tell you, life sometimes gets in the way, and it's just taken me a little bit longer than I had hoped. But I hope it is worth the wait. And today's episode is entitled Off on a Jag, Uncle Joe Berryhill's Visit to Gettysburg in 1938. And as you may or may not know, 1938 was the last of the great veterans reunions at Gettysburg. By 38, the veterans were getting pretty long in the tooth, and this was going to be the last really big one. And it was an interesting reunion, and I'm going to talk to you today about one of the Mississippi veterans who attended that reunion. And the Gettysburg reunion was held from June 29th to July 6, 1938. Union and Confederate veterans met at Gettysburg for one last great reunion. These aged veterans, most of them over the age of 90, walked the fields of Gettysburg for one last time, serving as a tangible reminder of the war that very nearly tore the nation apart 75 years earlier. Now, I was not really planning on doing an episode on the 1938 Gettysburg reunion, but as in so many things, I stumbled across a little story. I found this photograph labeled Off on a Jag with a brief story about Uncle Joe Berryhill from Pike County, Mississippi, who attended the Gettysburg reunion. It sparked my interest, and I thought I would see what I could find about his trip to Gettysburg. So this is the story of Uncle Joe Berryhill and his trip to Gettysburg in 1938. And I found this initial picture and story in the Macomb Daily Journal, June 27th, 1938. And Uncle Joe Berryhill was a member of the Stockdale Camp number 324 of the United Confederate Veterans that was based out of Magnolia, Mississippi. And this is a great picture of the camp taken July 4th, 1912. The camp had a very active part in the social life of Pike County in the late 19th and early 20th century. But even in those heady days when the camp had dozens of members, the United Confederate Veterans realized that their time as an organization was fleeting. On June 30th, 1899, the Stockdale Camp held their annual reunion at Magnolia, Mississippi. And this is a real photo postcard of Magnolia taken just a few years after this reunion. Their keynote speaker for the reunion was Lieutenant Governor James Henry Jones of Woodville. He was himself a Confederate veteran, having served in the 38th Mississippi Infantry, a unit of which I have written and spoken of often. And he was, unfortunately, a man who had lost three younger brothers in the conflict. So he had suffered a great deal of personal loss in the war. But in his speech to the reunion members, Jones noted, "We have held these annual reunions now for nearly a quarter of a century, and our hearts grow sad when we note from year to year how many fail to answer to the roll call and how thin our ranks have grown. In a few more short years, we will have passed over the river to rejoin our old comrades who are waiting for us on the other shore. And God grant that each and every one of us may be worthy to find blessed rest under the shade of trees." This is from the Magnolia Gazette, July 5th, 1899. And as time went by, as Colonel Jones noted, the Confederate veterans slowly began fading away, and that was certainly true for the Stockdale Camp. By 1931, the Stockdale Camp only had 9 members left, the youngest of whom was 84 years old. The next year, their numbers had rallied briefly, and in 1934, they had 10 members. The next year, 1935, was a very hard year for the old veterans. At their annual reunion in June, there were only 5 surviving members. They had lost half their membership since the last reunion. Their commander, B.C. Quinn, having died since the last reunion, the camp was called to order by Chaplain N.E. Alford, and the surviving veterans elected Joe Berryhill their new commander. And then practically every article in the later 1930s that mentioned the Stockdale camp listed one or more members of the group as having passed on. So they were rapidly becoming extinct. Their numbers had dwindled until in 1936, a newspaper announced that only 2 Confederate soldiers remain in Pike County. All others have moved on to join their regiments. Sworn to hold annual reunions as long as 2 survive, the Stockdale camp met in Magnolia Friday. And the 2 men that met were Needham E. Alford, shown here, and Joe Berryhill. They were the last 2 soldiers living in Pike County. 6 of their comrades in the camp had died since the reunion the previous year. And the paper noted, the thin gray line is now very thin, but the memory of the old soldiers continue with enriching vigor. More power to these 2 fine old soldiers who remain. And Alford and Berryhill met in June 1937 for their annual reunion. A newspaper reporter speculated that this meeting might be their last. And as the program closed, they sang the song, "Till We Meet Again." And sadly, the newspaper reporter was right. This was their last reunion. Needham Alford, who had served as a private in Company B, 19th Louisiana Infantry, was killed in a car wreck on July 28, 1937. In the article about the accident, the local newspaper noted, "The death of Reverend Alford leaves Pike County with only 1 surviving Confederate veteran, Joe Berryhill of Magnolia." And I can only imagine what Mr. Berryhill must have thought when he got the news and realized he was the last Confederate veteran in Pike County. It must have really been a sad moment for him to think of all of his friends and comrades who had gone on before him. But Berryhill didn't let that keep him down, and even though he was the only surviving veteran, he did attend the Confederate Veterans Reunion in Magnolia in 1938. The reunion was held at the Pike County Courthouse, shown here in a modern photograph, and it was, the local newspaper noted, continuing the custom of over 50 years, the Magnolia chapter of the Daughters of the Confederacy held the annual Confederate reunion today at the courthouse, despite the fact there was only 1 veteran in the county, Uncle Joe Berryhill, surviving. The paper went on to state that, quote, "Mr. Berryhill, who on Monday will leave for Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, to attend the reunion of the Confederate and Union veterans on July 29th to August 5th, is the only living member of Stockdale Camp as well." And that's from the Macomb Daily Journal, June 24th, 1938. And this is one of my favorite photos from that 1938 reunion. Union and Confederate veterans shaking hands at the wall at Gettysburg. Just an iconic image. And Union and Confederate veterans came from all over the United States to attend this reunion, both blue and gray soldiers. More than 12,000 Civil War veterans were still living in the United States in 1938. And since each of them were in their 90s or even into their hundreds, the government authorized 2 attendants to come with each surviving veteran. Now, more than 4,000 veterans signed up to attend the reunion, but the actual number that made it to Gettysburg was much lower. 1,359 Union veterans and 486 Confederate veterans, along with 1,845 attendants. So this is just the participants alone, so it was a big event. And to house this huge crowd, a tent city was built by more than 900 workers, and each veteran was given a tent, 9 by 9 foot military tent with a wooden floor. There were also mess tents, toilets, first aid stations, and drinking fountains placed around the camp. Most of the major ceremonies were held at Gettysburg College's Memorial Stadium, where more than 10,000 temporary seats were added for the crowd. Also, there were 3 kitchens and 55 mess tents that could feed up to 5,000 persons at a time. So they were set up and ready for the huge crowd that did appear. Now, unfortunately, Joe Berryhill left no written record of his trip that I can find. Excuse me. Unfortunately, Joe Berryhill did not leave any written record of his trip to Gettysburg, and so I just have to kind of fill in the gaps. But his local newspaper, the Macomb Daily Journal, did write about the reunion while it was going on, and the paper said, "Special trains every hour, buses and automobiles brought the main force of 2,000 veterans to the tented cities built for them on fields where their gun caissons once crushed the ripe wheat, and their shouts sent frightened villagers scurrying to the cellars of their homes. There, along the edges of 10 miles of newly built boardwalk, they sat in the sun and stirred the ashes of memory and talked of another day long ago when they sweated through the steaming fields of waist-high corn and frightened the cows in Devil's Den with bullets meant for the Yanks or for the Johnnies." And I'm sure that Berryhill would have wanted to see the area where he actually fought, because his unit, the 9th Louisiana, was at the Battle of Gettysburg. And this is a modern photograph of the marker for his brigade, Hayes's brigade, which was made up of the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th Louisiana infantry regiments. And I just have a feeling he probably sought out this area just to see what the ground he had fought over looked like. And in fact, here's a photo taken at the time of the war showing what the same ground would have looked like. And I can only imagine the thoughts that must have been going through his head as he walked this ground that he had fought over so many years earlier. Now, the highlight of the reunion was the dedication of the Eternal Light Peace Memorial by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. The president gave a speech to a huge crowd, and he said in his speech, quote, "Lincoln spoke in solace for all who fought upon this field, and the years have laid their balm upon their wounds. Men who wore the blue and men who wore the gray are here together, a fragment spared by time. They are brought here by the memories of old divided loyalties, but they meet here in united loyalty to a united cause which the unfolding years have made it easier to see. All of them we honor, not asking under which flag they fought then, thankful that they stand together under one flag now." And over 250,000 people were in attendance for this speech, with an estimated 100,000 more unable to make it to the site because of the overcrowded highways. The memorial's $60,000 cost was provided from donations from states both north and south. The base of the monument was made of Maine granite, while the shaft was made of lighter colored Alabama limestone. It had a gas-lit eternal flame that burned until 1979 when it was replaced by electricity, but in 1988 they restored the gas flame. Now, Joseph Berryhill, I'm sure, had quite a reunion, and unfortunately it was going to be among his last. Joseph Berryhill died on February 2nd, 1939 at the age of 92. The old veteran made the most of his final year on earth. The local newspaper noted, quote, "He never missed a veterans reunion, attending 4 last year. The reunion in Magnolia last June was solely for Uncle Joe. In July, he went to the Gettysburg, accompanied by his son, Monroe Berryhill. He also attended the state reunion in Amory and Aberdeen in October, and went to Baton Rouge for the Louisiana reunion." And that's from the Enterprise Journal, February 3rd, 1939. At his funeral, the Reverend A.E. Pardue said of Joseph Berryhill, quote, "I never heard him complain or ever speak an evil word of anyone, not even a Yankee. He never held a grudge in his heart, not even to carry on the grudge between the North and the South. He was deep in religious spirit. He has just gone to attend another reunion, but this time a reunion of friends and loved ones who have gone on before. He is now happy while we mourn. He is happy in recognizing and reminiscing with those who have gone before. Enterprise Journal, February 3rd, 1939. And Joseph Berryhill is buried at the Silver Springs Baptist Church Cemetery in Pike County, Mississippi. And I hope you enjoyed this little story about Uncle Joe Berryhill's trip to Gettysburg. It's not a big story. It's just an interesting little story. And I like interesting little stories. And I did want to make an announcement. My next episode is going to be right around Memorial Day, and I thought I'd do something kind of different. I'm going to post another little video tomorrow, and I'm going to let everybody who replies to that video that I'm going to post tomorrow put in the comments what they want the next talk to be about, and I'm going to choose one of those ideas that you, the viewers, give me and do an episode on it. So please stay tuned, leave your comments, and I look forward to seeing them. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you for future episodes. And have a great day.